Hey everyone, welcome back to Infinite Podcast. I'm your host, and with me, as always, the maestro of Minecraft facts, Simon. So, Simon, we're digging into something cool today: Minecraft. Man, it's not just any game, it's a phenomenon that revolutionized how we think about gaming. Its sandbox environment lets players be creators, tearing up the rulebook on traditional game narratives. Could you imagine the early days when developers were shaping this with player feedback?
No way, really? The early days must have been wild. Picture this: a bunch of folks just throwing ideas around, seeing what sticks. I bet half the stuff they tried was bonkers. But that's the beauty of it, right? They listened to the gamers and literally built the game from the ground up with their input. Makes you wonder how many crazy ideas didn't make the cut.
Absolutely. The cutting room floor must have been a wild scene. And I think about it, those discarded ideas, they were all part of the journey, right? Some might see them as failures, but in reality, they were crucial stepping stones. Every crazy bonkers idea pushed the envelope, helping shape Minecraft into what it is today. A canvas where players can build their dreams. Isn't that kind of creative feedback loop with the community just mind-blowing?
Totally mind-blowing, dude. It's like every misstep was a sketch in the grand masterpiece. The community literally sculpted the game with their feedback. Crazy to think about how much that partnership shaped what Minecraft is now, huh?
Yeah, it's wild. The development of Minecraft really is a textbook example of community-driven game design. Originally, it was just a simple block building concept by Marcus Persson, also known as Notch. From its humble beginnings in 2009, Minecraft relied heavily on the feedback loop from its beta testers and early adopters. They were integral in refining aspects of gameplay and even bug fixes, literally shaping the game's evolution with their input. This model became a blueprint for how open-source projects can lead to massively successful products.
I get that, but think about it. Was it all sunshine and rainbows? Sure, community feedback is gold, but there's got to be a flip side. Spinning out bugs and glitches with every update based on user input had to be a headache. I mean, imagine dropping a new feature you think is awesome, and then boom, the community tears it apart. Gotta admire Notch for sticking through that roller coaster, huh?
Yeah, Simon, you hit the nail right on the head there. Man, it couldn't have been all sunshine and rainbows for Notch. Imagine the pressure of iterating on your baby based on every bit of feedback that comes in, both good and bad. Every update is like tossing a hot new track to the crowd. Sometimes they'll rave and other times they'll boo. The commitment to stick through all that, especially when features got trashed, seriously impressive. Must have taken some serious passion for the game to see through the noise, huh?
Yeah, but on the flip side, you've got to consider, was all that open-ended feedback really ideal? Too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Notch was a visionary, sure, but constantly pivoting based on every single piece of feedback could lead to a lack of clear direction. Some of the greatest games are tightly controlled by their creator's vision. Without that, could Minecraft have ended up a bit too, muddled or directionless if Notch hadn't steered it right? There's something to be said for balance, isn't there?
Definitely, Simon. That's a solid point. Too much input could scatter the vision, running in different directions at once. Notch, though, he managed to balance that scale, taking what worked from community feedback and still keeping his core vision intact. It's kind of like conducting a symphony, right? Without some guiding hand or structure, Minecraft could have easily ended up as this jumble of mismatched ideas. But instead, it found clarity within its freedom. Notch had to be selective about which suggestions were shaping the game and which were just noise. That balance is crucial. It allows for both innovation and alignment with the original game's spirit. So yeah, there's definitely something to be said for not letting the open-ended nature go entirely unchecked.
Totally, Joe. It's like Notch was juggling, right? Keeping the good stuff and ditching the chaos. Makes you wonder, though, how did he determine which ideas were gems and which were just rocks? What was his litmus test when considering player feedback?
Well, Simon, diving into that, Notch initially didn't have a formal system or a criteria. It was more like intuition mixed with trial and error. As the game gained traction, he started looking closely at how new features affected player engagement and server load, which were crucial given Minecraft's heavy reliance on building expansive worlds. Plus, earlier on, he followed online forums and community discussions, seeing what features got the most traction or sparked the most interesting conversations among players. It wasn't just about piling on every suggested feature, but about fostering an environment of creativity and exploration that aligned with his vision of what Minecraft should be. He had to sift through a lot of feedback, picking out what truly enhanced the foundational gameplay without straying too far from the core mechanics that made the game special.
That's some crafty navigation by Notch, for sure. Keeping Minecraft true to its roots while letting it evolve with the community's heartbeat. Makes you think, what would Minecraft look like if he went a whole different direction with those early suggestions? There's a whole alternate universe of Minecrafts out there from all those discarded ideas.
Yeah, Simon, Minecraft's ability to adapt and grow with its community is just wild. Speaking of the community, it isn't just teens or gamers diving into this blocky universe, it's families too. It's like Legos for the digital age. You ever think about how Minecraft is not just a game but also a bonding tool for families and even an educational resource?
Totally, Joe. It's kind of wild how Minecraft morphs into this family game night thing. Imagine, you've got kids and parents all huddled around, building stuff together. It's like, are people really using it to teach basic engineering concepts to their kids? How cool is that? And does throwing in computational thinking just come naturally while they're stacking those blocks?
Yeah, Simon, it's genuinely fascinating. Like, parents are really getting creative with it. They're not just playing the game, they use it as a tool to teach kids problem solving and basic engineering principles. You know, like balance and structure when building those elaborate castles and towers in Minecraft. And about computational thinking, yeah, it sort of sneaks in there. When kids automate stuff like farming in-game with redstone, they're essentially coding without even realizing it. It's like they're learning logic and sequence in a fun and immersive way. Plus, their creativity just skyrockets while they're figuring all this out with their families. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that's kind of cool, Joe. But like, do you ever wonder if it's maybe too much? Like turning game time into learning time? Could that take the fun out of it for some kids? Don't get me wrong, it's awesome that Minecraft can be this educational tool with redstone and all, but there are probably some kids who just want to, mess around and blow stuff up without worrying about learning gates and circuits. Isn't part of playing games just about chilling and having fun? What happens to that when we start pushing education into their playtime?
Uh, totally see where you're coming from, Simon. Like, there's definitely this balance we got to find, right? Injecting too much education can make the game feel like another classroom. And games are about escape, exploring, and just having fun without pressure. I get it. Some kids might feel like their playtime is being hijacked for learning. They just want to build something wild or explore without thinking about lessons or outcomes. Got to keep that magic of play alive because that's what got us all into gaming in the first place. So yeah, finding that middle ground where learning is a byproduct of fun rather than the main goal might be key here. What do you think?
Wait a minute, Joe. Are you telling me people actually use Minecraft like Legos in the digital world? That's pretty fascinating. I mean, think about it. It's just not about blowing stuff up and those endless adventure quests. Families sitting down to build virtual stuff together. It's like they're bonding over pixels. And get this, using it to sneak in some learning, that's kind of clever, right? Teaching kids how to think logically with redstone, sort of like basic coding, without them even noticing because they're too busy having fun. Man, that's a genius way to mix teaching with play. Isn't that kind of the perfect setup for learning?
Yeah, Simon, you've pretty much nailed it. It's like who would have thought that a game could turn into such a powerful tool, right? And the beauty of it is how stealthily learning gets woven into these gaming sessions. Kids don't even realize they're picking up skills because they're too wrapped up in the fun of creation and exploration. So, do you think this sort of model, mixing play with education, could reshape how we think about learning in other areas too? Like, imagine applying this learning without realizing approach to other subjects or skills. What's your take on that, huh?
Joe, that's kind of a groundbreaking idea, right? If games like Minecraft can make learning fun and seamless, why not apply it elsewhere? Imagine math or history woven into gaming. Makes everything less daunting, don't you think?
Absolutely, Simon. Like, imagine learning history by actually navigating through ancient civilizations in a game or solving real world problems to level up in math. It's like you're not just memorizing facts, you're living them. Makes the learning stick because it's more than just bookwork, it's experience. Gaming could totally revolutionize education by making it engaging and practical, not just textbook heavy. Seriously, who wouldn't want to learn that way?
Totally, Joe. But okay, playing devil's advocate here, could there be a downside to gamifying learning too much? Think about it. If kids start expecting every learning experience to be as engaging as Minecraft, could we end up undervaluing the skills or patience needed for traditional study? Like, not everything can be learned through a game, right? What happens then?
This is a solid point, Simon. Like, there's definitely a risk in setting up unrealistic expectations. If learning always feels like play, some students might struggle with traditional settings where they need more discipline or focus. It's about balance, right? While gamification can make subjects approachable and engaging, we also got to teach kids resilience and how to handle different learning environments. Plus, not everything translates well into a game format. Subjects that require deep critical thinking or advanced theoretical concepts might lose nuance in a purely gamified environment. So, yeah, while games like Minecraft are amazing for introducing concepts and building foundational skills, we also need strategies that prepare kids for the variety of learning scenarios they'll face down the line. What do you think? Can we strike that balance?
Yeah, Joe, balancing it sounds tricky but doable, right? Like integrating games where they're most effective and still fostering traditional study habits. The combo could be dynamite. But how do we scaffold that? You think schools are up for such a blend, or is this going to be more of a push from tech-savvy parents and extracurricular programs? What's your take on who drives this change? Huh?
Yeah, Simon. Finding the right mix could definitely be a joint effort. Schools might take some time to adapt, but tech-savvy parents and innovative extracurricular programs could certainly push the envelope. It's about building that momentum and showing real results, huh? From there, who knows? Maybe we'll see more schools catching on and crafting curriculums that integrate both traditional and game-based learning methods effectively. So speaking of integration, how else do you think games like Minecraft can continue to evolve in this digital Lego landscape? What's the next big step for engaging all ages?
Speaking of Minecraft's evolution, Joe, isn't it just hilarious how the community creates these crazy mod expansions? Like, turning everything into some kind of ragdoll physics madness or those wacky animals that make no sense. You ever dive into those lighter, funnier mods? They sort of show another layer to this whole digital Lego biz, injecting humor and sheer randomness into the mix. What's the most bonkers mod you've come across?
Absolutely, Simon. The creativity is just wild. There was this one mod called Exploding Animals, where literally every animal you touch just blows up in a ridiculous display of confetti and sound effects. Totally nonsensical, but hilarious. Plus, there's a mod where every block you break makes a random sound effect, like from a foghorn to cartoonish boings. It's like mods like these turn regular gameplay into a comedy show. They remind us not to take everything so seriously all the time. What about you, Simon? Got any absurd mod stories or favorites that had you cracking up?
Yeah, Joe, those sound totally wacky. But have you seen the chicken gliding mod? You just strap a chicken to your back and it lets you glide around the map. I mean, where do people even come up with this stuff? It's ridiculous, but man, is it hilarious. And Not to be a Debbie Downer here, but while these are funny, sometimes I wonder if they take away from the game's original charm or something. You think there's ever a point where a mod becomes too ridiculous? Or is it just all in good fun? What's your take on keeping the original vibe of Minecraft while enjoying these wild mods?
Yeah, Simon, the chicken gliding mod is just out there, right? Like, who even thinks of that? It's totally bonkers, but in the best way possible. And, I get what you're saying about possibly losing the original charm. There's like this purity to vanilla Minecraft that these crazy mods can sometimes overshadow. But uh, I think as long as we can toggle between vanilla and modded experiences, it's all good. It lets everyone tailor their adventure, whether they're looking for the classic challenge or just a ridiculous laugh out loud session. So, do you reckon there's a perfect mod out there that strikes that balance? Or is the beauty of it all in the variety?
Yeah, Joe. I think the charm really is in the variety, right? There's something out there for everyone. Whether you're a hardcore vanilla enthusiast or someone who loves to spice things up with mind-bending mods, Minecraft's got you covered. And talking about perfect balance, maybe it doesn't even exist. Maybe it's more about what each player needs at the moment. Like one day it's all about building and survival, and another, you just want to glide around on a chicken full of glee. Do you ever switch up your playstyle based on your mood, or are you always on the hunt for the wackiest mods out there?
Totally, Simon. My Minecraft mood swings more than a pendulum, man. Some days it's all about the classic survival mode, gathering resources, building shelters, the whole shebang. Then, there are times I dive into the craziest mods just for kicks. Like there's this World of Humor mod where every texture is turned comical. Serious-faced moons and suns, cows that look like clowns. It's absurd. And speaking of the specifics, some mods really play up Minecraft as a sandbox for comedy. Take the Mob Disguise mod, for example, where you can turn yourself into any creature, or even other players, leading to some hilarious confusion in multiplayer sessions. Or consider the Joke Weapons mod that includes ridiculous and ineffective weapons like a fish that shoots out mini fishes as bullets. It gives combat a whole new flavor of silliness, right? It really underscores how Minecraft isn't just a game, it's a platform for boundless creativity. Each player's experience can be uniquely tailored to whatever they find fun or funny at that moment. What kind of mods are you thinking of exploring next? Or got any ideas for a wacky mod you wish existed?
Totally, Joe. You know what? We should totally brainstorm and create our own wacky mod. Maybe something totally out there, like dancing blocks. Imagine every block has its own dance moves. It'd be chaos and a dance party all wrapped up in one.
For sure, Simon. The dancing blocks idea sounds like an absolute blast. Like each block could have its own personality and music genre. Imagine a cobblestone doing the robot or a sand blocks swaying to some smooth jazz. It add a whole new layer of humor and interactivity to the game. And mods like these not only make the gameplay funnier, but also more immersive. Players can engage with the environment in a completely different, humorous way. Plus, it encourages creativity among modders and players alike to think outside the box, or in this case, make the box dance. What other features would be wild to see in a mod like this?
Yeah, Joe, dancing blocks could seriously break the mold. But what if we push it even further? Imagine if blocks reacted to different in-game events with their dances. Like a creeper pops up, and suddenly the nearby blocks start freaking out doing the jitterbug or something. And what about interacting with these dancing blocks? Maybe players can throw a dance party where they mimic the block's moves to, I don't know, gain resources or buffs. It'd make for some hilarious gaming nights, right? Plus, think about multiplayer. Dance battles to settle disputes instead of PvP fights. It's all about turning every interaction into a laugh fest. That's the magic spot for mods like this, making sure they're not just funny, but also super engaging. What do you think would make these interactions even more hilarious?
Yeah, Simon, that's a genius extension. Making the blocks react to events is like next-level interactive comedy. And about players mimicking dance moves. That could seriously turn into a community highlight. Imagine streaming a massive dance-off where your success in those dance challenges could help you mine faster, or maybe even make hostile mobs dance away their aggression. For making it even funnier, why not add some unexpected musical genres? Like, imagine a tough-looking iron block suddenly busting out ballet moves to classical tunes, or gravel blocks dropping some heavy metal headbanging sessions when you strike them. It'd be a riot to see how different player bases react and which blocks become fan favorites based on their dance styles. Plus, tying in the multiplayer aspect, having dance battles as a form of conflict resolution in servers sounds like an utterly refreshing twist. Could definitely lighten the mood and bring players together in unexpected, joyful ways. What do you think? Should there be like a voting system for the best dancer or rewards for participation?
Oh, absolutely, Joe. And what if there was a secret dance move or genre that players could unlock only after achieving certain milestones? Like, imagine discovering the elusive disco ball block that starts a whole server-wide dance party when activated. Talk about a game changer. That definitely keep players on their toes, literally. What do you think the ultimate dance-off challenge would look like in this mod?
That secret dance move idea is pure gold, Simon. It ramps up the fun and gives everyone something epic to strive for. So the ultimate dance-off? I'm thinking a grand battle stage, community judges, and a live DJ set spinning in-game. High stakes, high reward, filled with non-stop action and dance-offs that could swing the balance of entire server alliances. Shifting gears a bit, what do you think about Minecraft not just entertaining, but truly shaping how we interact with games on deeper levels, like in VR or educational systems? How far can this blocky sandbox go in influencing future media and learning environments?
That's a heck of a question, Joe. You know, Minecraft isn't just a game anymore. It's like a whole learning tool, right? It's shaping things in ways we didn't even think were possible. But then there's VR. Imagine stepping into a fully immersive Minecraft world. Could be groundbreaking or maybe too detached from the charming simplicity we all fell for. And as for schools, sure, it's a fun way to learn, but how do you balance education with keeping gameplay engaging without turning it into another classroom chore? It's tricky because not everyone wants to feel like they're still in school while playing. Anyway, what's your take, Joe? Do you think Minecraft's influence is all positive, or are there some parts of its expansion into other realms like VR and education that might need more ironing out?
Totally, Simon. Minecraft is like evolving into something much bigger than just a game. It's fascinating, but yeah, there are nuances to consider, especially with VR and educational integration. So on the VR front, stepping into Minecraft could be overwhelmingly immersive, which might shift its essence. It's about finding that balance between the pure fun of gaming and leveraging VR's tech without overcomplicating what made Minecraft beloved in the first place. And like when we talk education, Minecraft has massive potential. It can teach problem solving, engineering concepts, even history through reconstruction projects. But keeping it fun and not just another educational tool, that's the tricky part. The challenge lies in designing these educational experiences so they feel as engaging as playing the game purely for entertainment. They've got to ensure these innovations add value, enhancing the playful learning experience without losing the joy. That careful blend could really define how games like Minecraft shape futures in both education and broader interactive entertainment. What do you reckon the key is to keeping Minecraft both educational and entertaining without losing its charm?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like trying to keep a plate spinning on a stick. Too much spin and it flies off, not enough and it drops. Trying to marry education with the inherent anarchic spirit of Minecraft, keeping both educators and gamers happy, it's a wild ride, Joe. What examples have you seen where this balance is actually working out?
Oh, absolutely. That's the perfect analogy. It's like walking a tightrope. One cool example is Minecraft Edu. Schools have embraced it because it offers lessons built around game mechanics. Kids learn about physics by building bridges or explore history by constructing ancient cities, all within Minecraft's playful environment. It sticks because it feels like playing while learning. Now that's spinning the plate just right. What other gaming platforms do you think could benefit from this kind of educational twist, Simon?
Oh, for sure. Minecraft Edu is nailing it. And thinking about other platforms, imagine something wildly different, like racing games used to teach physics, or strategy games that could dive into history and conflict resolution. There's a whole universe of possibilities where gaming meshes with learning. It really makes you wonder, huh? What other unexpected game types could we turn into educational tools while keeping them fun and engaging? The future of interactive entertainment looks pretty bright from here. What do you think we'll see next, Joe?
Uh, you're spot on about that universe of possibilities, Simon. It really bridges into how platforms like Roblox are revolutionizing the game development scene. It's not just about playing games anymore, it's about making them too. Roblox started out pretty simple back in 2006, but has exploded into this massive platform where users don't just consume content, they create it. What do you think makes Roblox stand out in this sea of other gaming platforms?
Yeah, what really sets Roblox apart, is its incredible openness and accessibility. Like, it's not just for the hardcore coders or game designers. Anyone with an idea can jump in and start crafting their own world without needing to learn super complex coding. It's kind of like having a Lego set online where the pieces are programming elements, but easy enough for kids and hobbyists to put together. This democratization opens up game development to a way broader audience, sparking creativity on levels we haven't seen much elsewhere. Plus, the variety of games, everything from simple obstacle courses to complex simulations, shows how versatile the platform is. It's not just changing who gets to play games, but who gets to make them and shape gaming culture. What types of Roblox creations have caught your eye, Joe?
Definitely, Simon. The accessibility of Roblox is a game changer. But, sometimes I wonder about the quality versus quantity situation. Yeah, it's awesome that anyone can create games, which truly democratizes game development. Yet this leads to an overwhelming number of creations that might lack depth or sophistication that more traditional platforms offer. But hey, what's remarkable, and something that has definitely caught my eye, is seeing those unexpectedly profound games emerging from the crowd. Like take Adopt Me. It started simple, but evolved into a virtual community where players are engaging in complex economies and social structures. That's not just play, it's like a whole sociological experiment wrapped in a game. And then there's the educational aspect too. Some creators have leveraged Roblox to teach coding through the gameplay itself, which is honestly super clever. It makes you think, where's the balance between keeping things accessible but encouraging deeper, more meaningful game creation? What's your take on managing that balance, Simon?
Oh, totally, Joe. It's like everyone's given a paintbrush, but not everyone's going to be Van Gogh, or even want to be, right? The key might just be in the community itself. Providing tools or platforms within Roblox where seasoned developers can mentor newcomers could encourage richer content without stifling that open door ethos. Maybe it's about fostering a culture of collaboration over competition, eh? How do you think that kind of environment would affect the types and quality of games produced?
Oh, absolutely, Simon. Turning the platform into a collaborative workshop rather than just a competition could seriously up the innovation game. Imagine a community where sharing knowledge and resources isn't the exception but the norm. We'd probably see not just more games, but games with layers you'd never think possible on Roblox. It's like mixing different genres of music. Suddenly, you've got a fresh new sound no one expected. How do you think this could change the perception of Roblox in the wider gaming industry?
That's a fascinating way to look at it, Joe. I reckon if Roblox keeps nurturing this collaborative workshop vibe, it could start to be seen not just as a playground, but more like a serious lab where real innovation happens. Like it might shift from being viewed as just a kid's platform to a bona fide incubator for game development talent. And, that'd kind of flip the script on how traditional gamers and developers view Roblox. It wouldn't be about sifting through a jumble of games anymore. Instead, Imagine if it's seen as a beacon for pioneering gaming concepts or even breaking into the industry. What do you think about that possibility, Joe? Would that change the game for how people see user generated platforms?
Yeah, Simon, that's a game changer for sure. Shifting Roblox from like just a playground to a recognized incubator could really transform perceptions. It gives user-generated platforms some serious clout in the tech and gaming industries. What's cool, here is how it can demonstrate the viability of these platforms not just for entertainment, but as a launching pad for budding developers. If more people start seeing Roblox as a legit development platform, we might see an influx of new talent who were previously intimidated by the barriers of traditional game design. So yeah, fostering this type of community and perceived value could really bolster respect and interest towards user-generated content platforms across the board. Isn't it wild to think about how this could potentially expand the entire ecosystem of digital creation?
Absolutely, Joe. It's kind of mind blowing to think about how embracing these platforms as legit developers' labs could democratize game creation even further. It just opens up like so many doors for folks who might have felt locked out of the industry because they didn't have the means or the know how to break through the traditional barriers. And thinking about that, it really gets you wondering, what innovative ideas are we missing out on right now because people don't have the access or encouragement they need? How do you think industries beyond gaming, like education or even professional training, could benefit from adopting a similar model to Roblox's platform?
Oh, absolutely, Simon. Adopting Roblox's model could revolutionize multiple fields. Imagine interactive training simulations in professional environments or schools using game design fundamentals for education. It's about breaking down barriers and making innovation accessible to everyone.
For sure, Joe, like taking the essence of what makes Roblox so revolutionary, its accessibility and usability, and applying that to professional sectors could seriously shake things up. People can learn complex subjects through interactive experiences, which might stick better than traditional methods. And like, consider healthcare training. Using a Roblox like model, med students could practice procedures in a risk free digital environment before ever touching a patient. It lowers the stakes of initial learning phases and could lead to more confident, better prepared professionals. This model, it's not just about game development anymore. It's poised to transform how we approach education and training across the board. Isn't it wild how gaming tech could change real world skills development?
Definitely wild, Simon. But while the potential for a Roblox-like model in sectors like healthcare training is promising, we've got to be a bit cautious too. Isn't there a risk of oversimplification? Like translating complex real-world tasks into digital simulations could miss nuances that are critical in high-stakes fields. Plus, there's the engagement factor. Just because you can gamify an educational scenario doesn't necessarily mean it leads to deeper understanding or retention. It's finding that sweet spot between engaging content and effective learning outcomes that's tricky. What do you think about balancing these elements without losing the essence of what makes both gaming and professional training effective in their own rights?
Oh, yeah, Joe, you nailed it there. It's a tightrope walk between making learning fun and ensuring it's still deeply effective. But I think platforms like Roblox give us an exciting preview of what could be possible. There's room to experiment and refine these models until they really click. The blend of engagement with serious educational value, it's not just a pipe dream anymore. So yeah, how do we keep pushing those boundaries without drifting into just playing games? That's the big question moving forward, huh? What's your take on that?
Totally, Simon. It's a fine line to tread, making sure things don't just become about fun and games, but stay rooted in genuine learning and skill acquisition. Speaking of blending elements to enhance experience, let's pivot slightly to how personalization plays into that on platforms like Roblox. There are some wild stories about the avatars players create. These personalized characters aren't just for looks, they massively impact interaction and community vibes. Ever stumbled across any hilarious avatar tales in your gaming adventures, Simon?
Oh, absolutely, Joe. It reminds me of this one time in Roblox. I swear this cracks me up every time I think about it. So, there was this player who had designed their avatar to look exactly like a taco, like full on taco with the lettuce and cheese sticking out. And the best part, they would just randomly pop up in different game worlds, throwing virtual salsa at other players as their way of interacting. It wasn't just hilarious, but kinda brilliant, because it immediately broke the ice. Players would start chatting, joking around, making food puns. It's like these quirky avatars create this unique space where everyone feels comfortable to express themselves and just have fun together. You know, it turns what could be a standard gaming session into a memorable community building hangout. What sort of impact do you think these kinds of avatars have on the community vibes in your experience, Joe?
Yeah, Simon, that taco avatar story is classic, but it makes you wonder, right? While these wacky avatars are definitely a blast and super memorable, I sometimes think they swing the vibe too far into the goofy side. Like, does having a bunch of outrageous characters running around make it harder to take anything seriously in the game? It's funny for sure. But there's also this balance we gotta find where players can still engage meaningfully without it just turning into a meme fest. Yet on the flip side, these personalized avatars can totally bring out creativity and self-expression in ways other platforms might not touch. They say a lot about cultural quirks and can even reflect societal trends through gaming lenses, huh? What's your take on how these avatars operate as mini cultural snapshots within games?
Oh, absolutely, Joe. These avatars are like mini billboards of personal and cultural statements, aren't they? It's wild to think about how a simple taco avatar isn't just being silly. It might be someone expressing their love for their culture, or even sparking conversations about global cuisine in a game setting. Who knew Roblox could turn into a cultural exchange program disguised as fun and games, right?
Exactly, Simon. It's like these avatars go beyond just visual appeal. They start conversations, foster connections, and can even educate in subtle ways. Think about it. Someone sees a taco avatar and maybe they get curious, ask about the best real life tacos, and suddenly you're in a cross cultural dialogue that all started from a goofy game character. Plus, there's this layer of personal identity, right? Players often craft avatars that resonate with their own experiences or aspirations, which adds another dimension to interactions within the community. These avatars become storytelling tools, where each element, no matter how silly it appears, could have a backstory or a purpose that enriches the shared virtual experience. It's a creative outlet that turns every gameplay into something more personalized and meaningful.
Yeah, Joe, that's spot on. When players craft avatars that mirror their own lives or dreams, it's like they're bringing a piece of themselves into the game. And that just ramps up the level of connection and community among players, doesn't it? You get these layers, not just like of fun, but also of personal expression. So, thinking about all this, do you reckon there's a way we could even better harness these personalized avatars for deeper community engagement or education within gaming platforms like Roblox? You know, to make those interactions even more impactful.
Absolutely, man. The key might be in giving players tools that are even more robust to personalize their avatars, maybe even integrating educational components like history or social issues into avatar options. Imagine an avatar dressed in traditional attire from different cultures that sparks a tutorial about that country's history when interacted with by others. You're not just playing a game, you're dipping into a cultural exchange that's deep and enriching. That could seriously up the level of engagement and education in these game environments.
For sure, Joe. That's a solid idea about blending education with avatar design. But, like, think about this. Sometimes, could diving too deep into educational content risk making the platform feel less about fun and more like a classroom? The charm of Roblox is its laid back, creative vibe. Don't get me wrong, learning is great, but we gotta tread cautiously to keep the fun in the game. And like talking about fun avatars, remember the time someone made their character look like a walking, talking piece of famous art, the Mona Lisa? It was hysterical because every time they jumped, it looked like Mona Lisa was breaking out into dance. That kind of creativity not only gets laughs, but subtly nudges players towards appreciating art, don't you think? How do you balance out keeping things educational without losing the spontaneous joy that games are meant to bring?
Uh, yeah, Simon. Striking that balance is crucial. It's like you don't want the fun to dip because you're pushing the education too hard. But speaking of funny avatar stories, I've got one that ties right into what we're talking about. So there was once this player who created an avatar that looked like Albert Einstein, complete with the wild hair and mustache, right? The twist was they would only communicate using famous Einstein quotes. It was hilarious, but also educational in a really light-hearted way. Players would flock around him, not just for laughs, but ended up learning some pretty deep stuff, all shared through this quirky character. So, it was learning, but still totally in the spirit of fun and games. It kind of shows that if done right, education can be woven into these platforms without overshadowing the fun. What do you think, Simon? Could this kind of approach work on a larger scale within gaming communities?
Oh, definitely, Joe. Using historical figures like Einstein as avatar templates, that's gold. It's entertainment that subtly teaches. It doesn't feel like a lecture, but you're still soaking up knowledge while cracking up. Imagine rolling out a whole series of these character classes from different fields: science, art, history. Players could pick their favorite genius and just dive into character. That'd make for some rich, wildly entertaining sessions. Isn't it kind of cool how games could turn into interactive history books or science labs? What sorts of other historic or famous figures would be fun to see in game form?
Oh, absolutely wild idea, Simon. Imagine having Shakespeare dropping in with Elizabethan insults or Cleopatra giving beauty tips from ancient Egypt. Games would never be the same. It'd make every session a surprise history lesson. Who would you want to play as?
Oh man, talking about these historical figures in games leads me to think about how everything in these virtual worlds has value, like the avatars, right? And it's not just cosmetic stuff, but whole economies running inside games, like with Robux in Roblox. Crazy how in depth these game currencies are and the ethical puzzles they bring up. What's your take on this whole virtual economy thing, Joe?
Uh, Definitely, Simon. These virtual economies like Roblox's Robux are complex beasts. They're not just play money, they hold real value to players engaging in these worlds. And this breeds a bunch of ethical issues, right? Like considering how easily younger players can get sucked into spending real money on virtual items without fully understanding the value. Plus, there's this big question about fairness. How do creators ensure that everyone has an equal shot at earning or enjoying content without having to empty their wallets? It kind of mirrors our real-world economic debates, doesn't it? What's fair and equitable in a virtual marketplace can be just as thorny as it is in the real world. And think about the impact on real-life financial habits. Virtual spending could warp a person's perception of money management. Isn't that something to chew on? What do you reckon? Simon, does diving into virtual economies prepare us better for the real world, or could it potentially muddle our financial wisdom?
Joe, you're hitting some serious points there. It's like, on one hand, these virtual economies in games might teach some basics of managing finances, earning, spending, saving. But yeah, the flip side is, does it distort kids' view of money's value when it's so easy to click and buy? That blurring line between virtual and real cash can be kind of sketchy, right? And thinking about younger players, don't you think there should be more safeguards or educational elements in place to help them understand what they're really diving into with this kind of spending? Like, how do we make sure they get the fun without the pitfalls? What kind of steps do you think could be effective here, Joe?
Absolutely, Simon. Like adding more educational elements about economic principles directly into these games could be a huge win. Uh, think about it. Integrating mini games or tutorials that mimic real-life financial scenarios but are tailored to fit the game world. This not only educates but also makes learning about money management a part of the adventure, you know? And then there's transparency. Game developers need to be super clear about how in-game purchases translate to real-world money. Maybe detailed breakdowns before every transaction. That could help demystify what you're actually spending. Plus, setting spending limits could be another proactive step. Parents and players could have tools to set monthly caps on transactions to prevent overspending, which teaches budgeting in a very hands-on way while keeping it safe. What do you think about those ideas, Simon? Could they help mold more savvy, ethical gamers?
Oh, definitely, Joe. And imagine this. What if earning currency in these games also depended on completing real-world good deeds or learning tasks? Might make everyone a bit more conscious about how they're not just gaming, but improving or learning too. How's that for merging reality with virtual economics?
Simon, that idea of tying real-world actions to in-game rewards sounds noble, for sure. But there's a flip side to consider, right? Like, bringing real-world tasks into a game could blur the lines way too much between play and reality. Games are escape hatches from everyday life. If you start making them too much like real life with chores or homework, it might suck out the casual fun. And then think about the practicality and privacy concerns. Monitoring real-world actions or verifying them could get intrusive. Where do we draw the line on data collection, huh? Plus, this might disadvantage players who can't access certain activities or resources outside the game. Not everyone's playing field is leveled in real life. Could actually end up less fair, don't you think?
Those are super good points, Joe. You're right about maintaining that escape factor in games, because isn't escaping real-life stress sort of the whole point? And man, you just opened a can of worms with privacy and fairness. Two huge beasts. So, like, keeping it fun but fair without turning into Big Brother is the tricky part, huh? And touching on transparency again, do you think there's a way to educate players, especially the younger crowd, without making it feel like another school lesson? What's a cool method you'd use to keep it engaging?
So diving a bit deeper into that, Simon, like to tackle education without it feeling preachy, one way might be through storytelling within the game. Think about character-driven narratives where choices in spending or saving impact the storyline. It's like players can see the repercussions of financial decisions firsthand, which could be powerful, right? And another thing is using visuals, graphs, meters that fill up as you save money, or rewards that visually change depending on spending habits. It makes the learning tactile and woven into the gameplay rather than a sideline lecture. Plus, there's this potential of community-based challenges where players work together to achieve economic goals within the game, learning from each other in an active social setup. Building these educational layers organically inside the gameplay could keep it fun and engaging while still imparting solid knowledge about economics. What do you think of those approaches, Simon?
Uh, those are some really inventive ideas, Joe, seriously. But like, let's flip the coin for a sec. Embedding too much education through narratives and visuals could maybe make players feel like they're being funneled into learning without a choice. It's like if every game move has a lesson behind it, could gamers start feeling like they're back in school during recreation time? And about transparency and using visual aids, right? While these can hugely benefit understanding, there's also a point where it might overcomplicate gameplay. Players come for simplicity and escapism, not necessarily to have a finance tracker dinging every time they buy a sword or a spell. Community challenges sound awesome, but consider this. Not all players are motivated by group goals. Some prefer solo missions. Could we be sidelining their preferred playstyle just to push economic lessons? Balance is key, and sometimes keeping gaming, as gaming might hold more appeal than turning every session into a teachable moment, don't you think?
True, Simon. It's almost like walking a tightrope between education and entertainment. Maybe the real trick is in optional educational layers. Players choose to engage if they want the extra challenge or learning. Keeps everyone happy and in control of their game-life balance. What's your take on that?
Totally, Joe. It's like choosing your own adventure book, but it's a game. Players who want to dig into the nitty-gritty of economics can dive right in, and those who just want to smash zombies or build empires can keep on keeping on without all the extra brain gymnastics. Keeps it chill for everyone. Plus, Choice makes the play feel more personal, doesn't it?
Exactly, Simon. Giving players the wheel to steer their own game experience could really be the golden ticket. Keeping it voluntary respects all play styles and learning speeds. But as these virtual economies keep evolving, there will always be new ethical puzzles to solve, right? Makes you wonder how the dynamics will shift in the future.
That's a solid point about evolving virtual economies, Joe. Speaking of evolution, it's crazy how platforms like Roblox aren't just playgrounds, but are turning into real life career launchpads, huh? Kids are jumping from playing games to coding their own worlds in there. What's your take on this transition from gamer to developer through such platforms?
It's genuinely fascinating, Simon. This leap from playing games to creating them is incredible because it lowers the entry barrier to coding, right? Kids who might never have considered programming get a taste through gaming, like Roblox, and realize they can do it. And think about this. As these young gamers turn into developers, they're not just learning to code, they're learning critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity in a really engaging way. It's pretty much hands-on learning without even feeling like education. It kind of demolishes the old school thought that games are just time wasters, huh? So platforms like Roblox could be breeding the next generation of tech innovators. What's your perspective on how this shifts traditional education paths, Simon?
Oh, definitely, Joe. But let's poke at this a bit. While it's super cool that gaming platforms like Roblox offer this seamless intro to coding, are we maybe hyping up the coding dream a bit too much? Like, not every kid dabbling in Roblox is going to turn into a tech mogul. There's a serious grind and learning curve to actually making it in the real tech world. And then, think about this. While these platforms are great for sparking interest, they aren't quite the comprehensive education one might require to really excel in tech fields. So, isn't there a risk of creating false hope unless these hobbies are supplemented with like more traditional education paths? Plus, the exposure's uneven, right? Not every kid who plays will necessarily have access to further resources or mentorship to take their skills next level. How do we bridge that gap and make sure the playing field's truly even, huh?
Simon, that's a really good point. Like, while the excitement about coding through gaming is huge, the reality check is super important. It kind of makes me feel for those kids who might think it's a straight shot from crafting games in Roblox to becoming the next big name in tech. And yeah, bridging that gap you mentioned, that's crucial. Uh, we've got to make sure these young hopefuls get the right kind of support and education beyond just the basics they learn online. Systems like mentorship programs, scholarships, or even more accessible coding camps could help level the playing field. The thing is, we need to foster not just creativity, but also the grit and deeper knowledge required for the tech industry. This way, we're not just creating dreamers, but real achievers who can actually thrive in the competitive environment of technology careers. What are your thoughts on how institutions can more actively support this journey, Simon?
Oh, Joe, I'm just picturing these massive gaming companies turning into education hubs, like having their own academies or something. What if a future version of Roblox is not just about building and sharing games, but serves as a real digital university? Wild thought, right? Could totally shake up the traditional classroom scene.
That's a wild thought indeed, Simon. Imagining these gaming platforms as digital universities is kind of mind-blowing. It could totally redefine what we think of as school. Uh, there's this whole new world where education is seriously fun and directly linked to budding industries. And think about the accessibility. Anyone with internet access could jump in. Makes you wonder, huh? Like, do you think this shift could engage more students who maybe feel disconnected from the traditional education paths?
Oh man, totally, Joe. It's like if school was a video game, maybe I wouldn't have tried to skip so many classes back in the day, you know? Like press X to not drop out, press Y to actually pay attention. And hey, instead of a report card, you get a high score. Tell me that wouldn't have changed our whole outlook.
Uh, totally get where you're coming from, Simon. The idea is definitely catchy. Gamifying school might have kept us more hooked. But let's chew on this. Could that gamification oversimplify real challenges? Like turning grades into just points and leaderboards might create a buzz, but does it really prepare students for the not so fun parts of learning and working in the real world? Plus, there's this thing about competitive pressure. If school becomes a game with winners and losers on public scoreboards, could lead to major stress, right? Not everyone thrives in hyper-competitive environments. How do we balance making learning engaging without turning education into just another leaderboard chase?
Oh, Joe, you've nailed a tough point there. Turning everything into a game has its perks, but it can totally warp the meaning of learning and achievement. Like, think about it. In the real world, not every effort is about hitting a high score or beating someone else, right? True story from those Roblox devs we talked about. Many started tinkering in their teens and learned through trial and error, not just aiming for some leaderboard top spot. And that's key. The learning process should be about innovation and understanding, not just racking up points. And legit, on taking this to an educational structure, while competitive elements can drive motivation, they might also foster unnecessary stress. Education needs to encourage collaborative and individual growth in ways that nurture skills and mental health, not just push everyone to outdo each other all the time. Gotta find that sweet spot where learning feels like an adventure without turning it into a pressured race, right?
Totally, Simon. It's about striking that balance where learning sparks genuine excitement and curiosity without turning it into a stress-inducing competition. You've got a point with how real learning through platforms like Roblox often looks more like exploration than racing for the highest score. And that makes me wonder, how do we tap into that natural curiosity without making it all about winning? Should educational platforms aim to integrate more sandbox elements where kids can explore ideas freely without worrying about points or levels? What's your take on integrating such free-form learning environments in mainstream education?
Oh, Joe, exactly. It's like putting Legos in every classroom. Give kids the blocks or code and let them build whatever flies into their imagination. No instructions necessary. Could truly unleash some wild creativity, don't you think?
Right, Simon. Like giving kids the freedom to explore with tools like coding blocks indeed paves the way for some serious creativity. And it's not just about building games or apps, it's about solving problems. When they tinker, they actually learn resilience and innovation by trying different solutions, skills that are golden in real life, not just coding. And think about this. If these platforms keep evolving, we might see more young coders developing apps that address real-world problems from a fresh angle. It's kind of cool to imagine that today's Roblox game could inspire tomorrow's breakthrough technology. So fostering this kind of unstructured play can really be a formative part of education, shaping how kids approach challenges throughout their lives, huh?
Totally, Joe. It's just stellar thinking about how today's playful coding might seed tomorrow's tech innovations. Keeps me jazzed about what these young minds will dream up next with just a bit of freedom and the right tools. Who knows what groundbreaking ideas are popping up in some kid's bedroom right now as they mesh blocks together in Roblox. Just makes you wonder where all this could go, huh?
Speaking of groundbreaking ideas in Roblox, it's kind of cool how these creative spaces also plant the seeds for more complex digital scenes, like virtual economies. Kind of ties back to how early MMORPGs evolved. They started simple and grew into these massive ecosystems where people trade and make money, kind of paving the way for what we see with the rise of digital marketplaces today, huh?
Oh, Joe, absolutely. But think about this. When these MMORPGs started popping up, no one really expected players would make real cash from virtual gold. It was all dragons and dungeons, not dollars and deals. And now, you've got folks who practically make a living out of gaming economies, like game world tycoons. Kind of blows the mind, huh? But it's not just sunshine and rainbows, right? Gotta ponder whether all this digital hustle is maybe overshadowing the fun of games themselves. Are we turning every virtual world into Wall Street, or what? What's your take on keeping the balance between play and profit?
That's a deep dive, Simon. I feel ya. The shift from pure play to profit in gaming It's kind of astounding. Like, it makes you wonder if the essence of gaming gets lost when the focus shifts so heavily towards making real money. Remember the days when it was all about high scores and bragging rights? Now it's portfolios and profit margins. But even though it's incredible seeing people thrive economically through what they love, like gaming, it's important to remember why games were so appealing in the first place. Escapism, community, and plain old fun. We got to find ways to keep those elements alive, even as the virtual economies boom. What do you think could be done to strike that balance better, huh?
Oh, Joe, that hits right at the heart of it. Uh, all this commercial vibe creeping into gaming does jazz up the stakes, but, like, at what cost? We dive deep into these digital marketplaces, and suddenly everyone's a trader or a mogul. Doesn't that kind of strip down the raw joy, the escapism of gaming that we used to love? But, to keep that balance, maybe we should think about introducing caps or limits, like ensuring games have zones or modes free from economic influence, where the focus is just pure, unadulterated gaming. This could be a chill area where, profit driven motives take a back seat to adventure and storytelling. It's like having your cake and eating it too, right? Mix in the thrill of economic gameplay without letting it overshadow the fun. What say you, Joe? Can game developers seriously consider stirring that pot?
That's a solid idea, Simon. Introducing zones free from economic pressures could really help preserve the core joy of gaming. Game developers should definitely consider this to maintain a healthy balance. Keeps everyone happy, right?
Ah, totally, Joe. Uh, Reminds me of this time back when I first dipped my toes into online gaming. I was messing around in this massive game world, just exploring, you know? And I stumbled into this virtual marketplace where folks were trading all sorts of crazy stuff, like enchanted armor and rare pets. Here's the kicker. I got so caught up in the trading that I kind of forgot about the actual adventuring part. Spent more time in market hubs than battling monsters. It was wild how quickly I got pulled into that economic side of things. But it was a bit bittersweet because that simple joy of just roaming around slaying beasts took a back seat. That experience hit home how these economic features can really change the way we interact with games. Makes you appreciate the idea of having those pure play zones to keep the spirit of adventure alive, huh?
Absolutely. And looking at how these game worlds evolved into bustling economic hubs is truly a phenomenon. Like in the early days of MMORPGs such as Ultima Online and later World of Warcraft, players began to assign real-world value to virtual items purely based on their rarity and utility in-game. The leap from there to a structured digital marketplace was significant. Remember how Second Life, launched back in 2003, became one of the first platforms where users could create and sell content? It was groundbreaking because it marked the opening of a new frontier where people could actually earn real money from their virtual endeavors. And now, with advancements in technology, especially blockchain and cryptocurrencies, we're seeing an even broader expansion. Games like Decentraland allow users to buy, develop, and trade virtual real estate, cementing the transition of games into fully functional economies. These transformations have reshaped our understanding of value and ownership, highlighting new legal and economic considerations, like intellectual property rights and taxation in virtual spaces. So, keeping the spirit of pure play alive while managing these complex economic layers continues to be a challenging but fascinating aspect of modern gaming cultures.
Oh man, Joe. When you think about it, it's like gamers are becoming virtual real estate moguls or running digital design firms straight from their living rooms. The line between playing a game and operating a business is getting blurrier by the second. Makes you wonder if one day we'll all just log in to work through our game consoles, huh? Wild times.
Man, that's the kind of future where office space could be a tab in your game menu.
Totally, Joe. But diving into that whole pixels for profit thing, these in-game trading mechanics aren't just fun in games. It's wild, right? Like you have this virtual sword or skin that's just made of pixels, super rare though, and suddenly it's worth hundreds, sometimes even thousands of real dollars. Now here's the kicker. How do these things even get valued? It all boils down to classic supply and demand. Say There's only one glowing dragon armor set in the entire game. Bam! That exclusivity just rockets its value among players. But hold up a sec, it gets deeper. You slap some real-world economic theories on these bad boys, and your brain starts spinning with possibilities. Like, could tough-to-get game items teach lessons about scarcity or market speculation? What if high school econ classes ran wild with a concept like this instead of snooze-worthy textbook stuff? Joe, doesn't it just blow your mind how much you can learn from how a digital item trades at peak hours? What's your take? Are we looking at the future classrooms through screens filled with epic battles for limited edition loot?
Oh, absolutely. Diving deeper into this pixels for profit idea, it's kind of fascinating to see how intricately these virtual items are woven into the fabric of like real economy theories. You've got these items that aren't just drawn up graphics, they're assets with fluctuating values influenced by player actions and game developer decisions. Like, consider how developers can manipulate scarcity and desire by introducing limited time items or unique skins during special events. Developers create a buzz, right? It drives up demand because everyone wants to snag that exclusive item before it disappears. So, here's where it gets even more interesting. This kind of strategy mirrors real-world limited edition products. Think sneaker drops or collectible toys that become insanely valuable over time. And on another note, think about how trading platforms within games have evolved. Players are like engaging in bartering, buying, and selling just as they would stocks or commodities. They're learning market dynamics firsthand, supply risks, price setting, negotiation tactics, all through gameplay. So, yeah, Simon, it does blow my mind. It's like we're witnessing a transformation in learning and economic understanding, all played out through these digital transactions. Schools could seriously take a cue from this model. It's interactive, engaging, and super relevant in today's digital age. Makes you rethink traditional education methods, huh?
No kidding, Joe. It's like we're all living in this giant digital economy lab, experimenting away without even realizing it. Forget textbooks, because next thing you know, homework will be about flipping virtual real estate or trading cosmic skins. We might just be grooming a generation of wizard economists here. Can you imagine getting graded on your ability to broker intergalactic treaties and trade? Now that would make for some epic report cards.
Oh man, wizard economists. Who wouldn't want to ace a class on intergalactic treaty negotiations? Better buckle up, because the future of education could be one wild ride.
Oh, totally, Joe. Reminds me of this one time when I was deeply into this space trading game, like interstellar smuggler vibes, you know? So there was this planet that had these rare crystals, right? Super valuable because they could power like huge spaceships or something wild like that. Anyway, I managed to snag a bunch during a limited time event. It felt pretty epic because there was all this buzz, everyone scrambling to get some before they vanished. I held on to mine, watching prices go up as they became rarer in the game's market. Kinda saw firsthand how the frenzy drove up their value, a real rush. But here's where it gets super interesting and kinda ties back to what we're chatting about. When I finally decided to trade them, I got into this intense negotiation with another player. It was like real stakes feeling. You'd think we were dealing in actual commodities. Made me think about how these gaming experiences are actually mini economics lessons, you know? You learn about demand, scarcity, even a bit of the old supply side tactics just by playing around in these virtual worlds. Kinda makes you realize how potent games can be as learning tools, not just for kicks, but for grasping some pretty hefty economic concepts, huh?
Absolutely, Simon. Games are like crash courses in economics. Taking your crystal trading story, let's unpack that with some heavy-duty econ concepts. First off, the scarcity principle. Items like your rare crystals become more valuable as they become scarcer in the game. This mimics real-world resources like diamonds or even vintage wine, which appreciate in value as they become rarer. Then there's the concept of market speculation, which you nailed by holding on to your crystals until their value spiked. In traditional stock markets, investors often hold assets as they speculate their prices will rise due to various factors, including increased demand or reduced supply. Your intense negotiation bit? That's a live example of market liquidity and price discovery in action. Liquidity refers to how easily assets can be bought or sold in the market without affecting their price. High liquidity means lots of trading happens, just like in your game during the Crystal Rush. And all these transactions likely took place in an online marketplace within the game, paralleling digital trading platforms like stock exchanges where real-world assets are traded every second. So yeah, playing these types of games can offer insights into dynamic economic systems, providing players with a foundational understanding of complex financial principles through interactive and engaging gameplay. It's fun and educational, packing a punch in the learning department. What better way to grasp economic theories than navigating through trade negotiations for coveted space crystals, right?
Absolutely, Joe. Who knew learning economics could be such a blast, right? Always wild diving into these topics with you. And hey, to all our listeners out there, huge thanks for tuning in to another episode of Infinite Podcast. It's always a joy knowing you guys are hanging out with us, exploring all these crazy ideas. Make sure you come back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern for more off-the-wall discussions and maybe even some more wizard economist tactics. You know? Catch you then.
Oh, and before we bounce, who knows? Next time, you might even find out Simon's secret recipe for intergalactic success. Don't miss it.
Oh, absolutely. And Joe, just between us, that recipe might involve smuggling moon cheese. Essential for any space trader's snack stash. Don't miss out, folks.
Moon cheese? Now that's a snack that could truly be out of this world. Can't wait to dive into that, Simon.